Hello and welcome to Sci-Fi-Night Light. This is basically just a different segment of a show which is my opportunity to talk about random topics that somehow relate to sci-fi and horror. So, Christmas has passed but the holidays aren't over just yet. There's still New Year's, and as with any holiday, there's bound to be several horror movies that play around with the theme of that holiday. New Year's is no different. So let's check out some New Year's horror films, some you might and some you might not have heard of. We're going to start off with 1987's Bloody New Year, which, aside from lacking imagination for the title, is a pretty silly film. In it, a group of teenagers get shipwrecked on a strange island where they find a hotel where it's always New Year's. But that's not where things get weird, not even close. Basically, this film just loses it shortly after the hotel is discovered and all kinds of crazy and weird stuff starts happening. This is not at all a good film, but if you like cheesy B-movies, then this is actually pretty enjoyable and easy to laugh at.
This is crazy.
Our next film is from 1980 and is called New Year's Evil. Which admittedly is a better name, but the film itself isn't necessarily more original. The movie follows our heroine, Diane Sullivan, a prominent punk rock radio host on the west coast of America. On New Year's Eve, she starts getting a call from a killer with the world's weirdest voice.
Call me evil.
Telling her that the so-called naughty girls will get killed each midnight across the time zones of the United States.
I'm going to commit murder at midnight.
It's a low-budget slasher film, it's pretty silly, and really it isn't anything you haven't seen done better in other slashers. Well, except for maybe the killing of teens at midnight specifically, but if an exact hour of death is the most original thing you have in your movie, then it's not a good sign.
Well, we're really off to an interesting start, aren't we?
Lost Signal is a 2006 thriller based on actual events. But as with many subpar movies, that angle is mostly gimmicky. In the film, a couple leave a New Year's Eve party only to get into a mysterious car crash that strands them in the middle of a wilderness. While out there, they realize that their weird visions might have something to do with putting LSD in their drinks at the party. Because, that'll be hilarious on the ride home. Or, I don't know, maybe not.
Dude, not cool.
So despite the whole realistic angle, the film just doesn't really pack a punch or leave much of an impact, and unfortunately it just kind of falls flat in the end. Also, it has very little to do with New Year's, so let's just move on.
Did you see that?
In a previous episode of Sci-Fi-Night Light, we checked out a 3D Indian horror film, and now we're checking out another. Mumbai 125 kilometers 3D. What's the deal with Indian horror films being in 3D and having way too many numbers in the title? Anyway, the film follows 5 friends on their way to a New Year's party in Mumbai, but 125 kilometers outside the city, they encounter some supernatural forces that stops them.
Life is unpredictable, buddy.
I haven't seen this film, but from what I've read, cheesy doesn't even begin to suffice as a description, and in all fairness, the 3D looks pretty forced and shameful. Luckily though, there doesn't seem to be any forced song and dance routines in this flick. We're gonna round off with a true classic and the best film on this list, Terror Train from 1980 starring Scream Queen Jamie Lee Curtis. The film takes place on a train that's hosting a New Year's Eve costume party for a high school. However, people start getting killed by some sinister murderer who later takes on the costume of the victim.
Hey, take it easy, man. What are you doing? Oh my God.
So aside from having a pretty cool and fun setup, this is also a film that cemented Curtis's status as Scream Queen, as she'd already done Halloween, The Fog, and Prom Night at this point. Almost all of the film was shot in a still train in a warehouse in Montreal, with a crew rocking the train cars back and forth to simulate movement.
Do you believe in magic?
Now this is definitely not Jamie Lee Curtis's best work.
It's a joke. Goddamn practical joke.
But it is definitely a fun slasher that really does deserve a lot more credit than it gets. After all, it could very well be the best New Year's horror film ever made.
Now we're talking.
So that about does it for this episode of Sci-Fi-Night Light. We hope you enjoyed it. If you missed your favorite New Year's Eve horror film, by all means let us know what it is in the comments. That's all for me, and I'm signing out.
I don't want to get back on that track.